doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter to me. No.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who my friends are.
Yeah.
So you guys are down in the English turn. Is that where you're going?
No, the tour event that his student Jake Knap is playing in is the Zuri Classic. Moved away from English turn in about 2000 and I think 4 was the first year they played at TPC of Louisiana. And then 5, they played at English turn because TPC had damage from Katrina. And then it's been back there ever since. And then about 8, 9 years ago, they made it into a team event. So,
which is, I think it's good. It's good entertainment. I saw last year. It was pretty.
Every regular tour event gets old at some point.
Yeah.
Okay,
So yesterday there was a team with Isaiah, Celinda, and I forget the other kid's name, Bello or something like that. They were 12 under after 12. They were 11 under after 10.
11 under after 10.
And then I think they ended up at 14 under. But it was insane. We were watching Jake and Frankie Capon or Sapon, I forget how you pronounce his name. Yeah, they're playing pretty good, and they ended up 9 under. And these guys, they're basically lapping them.
They shot 14, right?
14, yeah. So they were like 12 under or 13 under after the same number of holes. So to see that kind of play, especially if you get two balls in play and these guys can just like let it go, it just goes to show you how good these guys are. I mean, how many people have heard of Isaiah Celinda, unless you're hardcore like Brian or me or you, right?
I haven't heard of him.
Okay, Brian hasn't heard of him. So it was pretty.
That guy was talking smack every step of the way.
You're talking about it.
Celinda?
I don't know. We didn't see any of that, but yeah.
I think well, maybe I have the wrong guy.
Well, he I've only seen him play a practice round. He's a pretty confident guy, so him talking smack wouldn't surprise me.
Right in line with it, yeah. He was.
So
was he with? Yeah, I think Jason Day was next to him. Is that correct?
Not sure who.
All right.
No.
There is a viral clip of a guy lighting it up and lighting everybody else around him up. So that's
we need a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what prompted this interview, or whatever you want to call it, this podcast, was I'm in Brian's studio in New Orleans. There was the studio on the side.
There was this guy, yeah.
And he just gave a lesson to a ex-college tennis player. The guy's probably in his late 40s, middle to late 40s, good athlete. And it was incredible to see how this guy, who's a low 80 shooter, what his concepts were and how he kind of got the club to back to the ball. And Brian gave him a lesson that would be about 1,000% different than the lessons you'd see on the internet today. So if I sent you a few clips.
He only hit the 2 good 7 irons 20 yards further than his regular.
Yeah. So that's why I'm here. I wanted to watch him give a lesson, or we were going to go to the tournament. So it just worked out. So I came over here and I thought I'd hit you up and see if we could do an impromptu.
And we love Ralphie.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, we'll do this quickie, but you and I need to sit down at length because you're prime material. What is that guy? You're rare earth. Rare earth.
That's a meaty question. We're ready to go. We're all.
You're rare earth, man. But yeah, okay. So let's plan to rendezvous, Brian. When you have the time, we'll sit down. We'll talk, and it's always a pleasure to see you. And I enjoy it, John. Both you guys are great guys. And good luck to Jake. Do you have anybody in the field, Brian?
Nope.
Well, kind of. Jason Duffner. He's done a little bit of work with him.
Yeah, I've done a little bit. Michael Jacobs.
Yeah. So like yesterday, I'm watching Jake warm up, and
I'm standing there like a tree because I know I'm at best in this little thing with the caddy and the teacher. I'm the third wheel, unnecessary third wheel. I'm just standing there. I know how to, the tour event thing.
You know what? The more sets of eyes you have, and you guys both been around the block forever.
It's not Tuesday either, right? It's go day. So I'm just there, but I am watching all of his shots just in case he starts hitting it sideways and John turns around and goes, "What did you see?" So I'm paying attention and I'm watching Kevin Kisner do some ridiculous stuff. It looks like all total garbage, but that's fine. So anyway, Duffner walks up and starts just right away, because we know each other pretty well now, and he's like, like right arm questions. And he's going, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? What about that? And I'm saying, well, yeah. Not to bore anybody with the details. And then while this was going on,
yes, Jake goes, so he works with Duffner. I'm like, well, yeah, he's done some work with him, and I was telling him about
and he was mildly impressed by that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What you got to understand, Ralph, is this is not name a random tour player. Young.
Let's see. Well, Frankie Sapon.
Okay, this is not Frankie Sapon. If this was not a team event, who's never met me, who, far as I know, has never heard of me. I guess he might have been under a rock. And then going, oh, he's a golf teacher. He's just standing there like a tree. Oh, Jason Duffner's asking him questions, and we all know Duffner as tour players go, because he does a little teaching with tour players too. Is a really knowledgeable guy. I could see that impressing him, because he doesn't know me from Adam. Jake took a lesson from me 4 years ago and won 2 tournaments in 3 weeks after that and got his Corn Ferry card. So it's not like he doesn't know I know how to teach golf. He took a golf lesson from me that was ridiculously successful. But if anybody wants to understand how it works on tour, there's no better story than that, because at the end of the day, we are all in the business, or we are all around the business, and we have the conversations that we have. Tour players are not talking about teachers. And thank God that you're doing this again, Ralph, like you did 20 years ago, because this business is completely not covered at all. If you asked everybody who walked in the Masters if they know who these 2 guys are, our name recognition, face recognition, if John takes off the hat, is not more than 2 or 3% max, and probably with that group of 40,000 people, probably way less than that. How many serious golf teachers don't know who one of us are? 0%. So that just shows you the coverage is so terrible by the mainstream golf media. A lot of those people are my friends. Not any of the people at the Golf Channel, by the way, are my friends. They don't cover it. Like when wouldn't you want to know those 2 kids that shot 14 under? Who are the teachers? In a tennis tournament, they'd be talking about it. They just shot 14 under par for 18 holes, like it was a scramble, but it wasn't a scramble. And yeah, I don't know who those kids are. And if I knew who they were, I wouldn't know who their teachers are, or who their teacher used to be, or what they're working on in their swing. And let me just tell you this, and I'm sure you're seeing this with the success your podcast is probably having on social media. People are interested.
Yes.
And in the best example that the mainstream golf media doesn't know shit, and there's no other way to say it than that, is the guy Ryan French.
You're talking about the guy that came up to you?
No, Ryan French, Monday qualifier info guy.
Okay.
That guy.
Okay.
He's got like 150,000 followers, right? And his entire, not shtick, his entire coverage is Monday qualifiers and the like, right? And if you would have went if you would have went up to any of the bosses at mainstream golf media, who all want a big social media presence, because that's where everything's going, and you took those people and you individually went there and said, me and John walked in together and we said, we've got an idea. Now, we can't do it because we're too busy in the trenches and trying to teach good players and bad players and everybody else. I think you should start covering Monday 4-spotters and little weird qualifiers.
You know what it is, Brian, is that in order to get the good stuff, right?
What would you think they would have said if I would have told them that? They would have said, nobody's interested in that. That's what they would say.
No, that's what everybody's interested in. If I could get myself on mini tour, covering mini tours and the guys that are actually out there struggling to try to make it. That's the storyline, not the guy that's making 10 million, take it or leave it. And you're right.
Well,
Monday qualifiers, the guys that are out there on the road, eating at Wendy's or whatever, and then,
on a good day.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason that Ralph, this is part of the reason that Jake's story and, him being who he is has made him kind of a little bit of a, I don't know, probably compared to what he's achieved with his play. A lot of people love his golf swing, love his manner, love the way that he presents himself. But, they know all the struggle that he went through to get there, right? They talk about him being a bouncer at a nightclub and,
which he only did for 5 minutes.
Well, he did for longer than he needed to. But even if you subtract that, he had Canadian tour, Corn Ferry tour, didn't get through. Back to Canadian tour, then he has a good successful Canadian tour and then wins his 9th tour event that he enters as a professional. That's exempt on the PGA Tour. And all the rest, and him shooting 59, but just the story keeps improving. And like yesterday, I was talking to somebody who went to get a hamburger, and we love that Jake. Oh, I love his story. I really want to get behind it, right? So there's so many of those people out there that are coming up that I think if people started looking at that part of the game, I think it would make the game even more popular and more compelling. Because at some point, I love Rory McIlroy, love all the stars, totally appreciate what they can do, but just seeing these new up and comers, that the future, whoever it might be. It's
and at the end of the day, I remember giving that lesson, and when it was over and we were like all going back to the clubhouse, I told John, he's definitely good enough to make it, and like make it, meaning like not just like barely make it, like. And I said, and he's a star. I did say that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was right, because I know a star from not a star. And the problem that the golf media has is they try to make people stars who really don't have any star power. And what do you get if you're a star? You get the mic thrown at you. They have nothing to say. The first time I was a Johnny Miller fan, I had never seen him in person, whatever, right? But he was my idol. And then they played some random tour event, Hartford or whatever. This is before I ever got to watch him play live in New Orleans. He played a couple times. And they put the mic on him on 18, like on a Thursday, or maybe it was a Saturday, because then there was no Thursday coverage. And it was just a random question about, what do you think about the 125 players instead of 60, whatever. That was stuff that was going on back then. I don't know if that's what it is, but it was a question like that. Soon as he started opening his mouth, you went, give him the mic. That's great. All these other guys suck. That's great. And what happened? They gave him the mic for 30 friggin' years, and he was so much better than the people that did it after him that they tried to replace him with, because not everybody's a star. And I don't know if it made the beginning of this tape or not, but we were talking about, watering myself down and Joe Mayo, and I know Joe.
Brought it back up again. I was going to do it.
But Joe Mayo, the first time I ever met Joe Mayo, I said, they should put him on TV. He's going to say something. But they didn't. They told him to shut up. And you know what? Good for you, Joe. We have our differences now, believe me. And they're pretty big differences. He never really came off the character. He just did his deal, and now Ping is using him in all this. It's like, I know a guy that's a gigantic Ping advocate, no names, that isn't even on Ping's club and ball staff because they think he's too toxic. That guy hadn't said half of what Joe Mayo said. But because Joe is a star, and it doesn't matter if he's the greatest teacher in the world. I'm just saying, he's got stardom. You could have him talk. He knows a little bit about other sports too. You'd put him on talking about the NFL draft. You'd go, that was a pretty good take. He's gonna come with something. And what you got to understand, and I think you know this, Ralph, just doing these shows back in the day and then doing them again, is it's a closed shop. You think Tour Instruction is a closed shop? And believe me, the biggest closed shop there is. I mean, they all hate each other, but they're all trying to keep me and him and other people like us off the tour. Just, yeah, and all of y'all that are watching it, we know
Go
this
ahead,
is right. So it's, it's okay. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying what's a more closed shop than Tour Instruction is Tour TV. That stuff is awful, man. Who else doesn't think watching the Poulon Weed Eater Open coverage on Thursday is terrible? Everybody. The 15
It's
handicap
more about I
instructors,
agree.
the guys who run podcasts, everybody thinks the coverage and everything that comes out of those people's mouth are terrible, and they don't do anything about it. I've never heard of an open casting call for any of that crap. That's why they suck, and they will continue to suck until they get somebody on there that'll actually say something, like Charles Barkley, right?
I think what's happening is that
Number two, and it was funny. They got, they think Kevin Kisner has interesting takes. I guess compared to
there isn't any flow. There's no flow to the tournament, and I think they have a template where you need to have a certain accent to lend credibility. But here, in the end, there were like Faldo was good, and then
Aldo was average.
Well, yeah, he was average, but I think it's going away from. I don't know. It's just hard to follow because there's no flow.
Has Azinger ever said anything that wasn't questionable? Like provable questionable, or so obvious that it's. So I had a kid, and John knows the story, but you might not know, Ralph. I had a kid that I teach some of the time, and he has another teacher too, and everybody's got more than one teacher, right? And he qualified for the drive, chip, and putt. He had a real good chance to win. Matter of fact, he won the driving by 17 yards. He's 9 years old here, 215. And I couldn't get in because I didn't have the right credentials. I thought the PGA card would get me in, but it doesn't matter. I'm at Starbucks on Washington Road in Augusta watching this kid and the other kids. And they've got a couple people on the Golf Channel talking, supposed to be experts. I guess the Paige McKenzie and who I'm sure is a nice lady, and not Trip Eisenhower, Aaron Oberholzer, right? Who's been on there a long time. They got an 8-year-old girl on there hitting a driver in slow motion, and they're going, look at the shoulder turn. She's 8. She's a girl. And she's apparently a long enough hitter and straight enough hitter to beat 3,000 other girls to get to this point. She's got a lot of shoulder turn. This is what you're going to come with on national TV? That's why nobody watches. They suck.
But
If you drugged me, I'd be better than those people.
But here.
They all know it, but it's those two people. Why would those two people want Joe Mayo to do that, or Michael Finney to do that, or anybody who would actually come with something? Because the whole house of cards might come down. If you put one smart person who could talk on golf in TV, the whole thing might just crumble underneath. It'd be like, you've been keeping real answers from us all this time? They've got TrackMan on every hole, and they never say anything about anything that has anything to do with ball flight that could teach a guy like the guy that was in there for a lesson about golf. Have you ever heard him explain spin and launch angle or anything?
Oh, they talk about ball speed, which
I saw a coverage on ESPN once, and they had an ex-LPGA, and she was talking about how she was getting into science, and they had TrackMan numbers. The guy hits like a 7-iron, and she starts to talk about the smash factor. And then she says that the smash factor should be 1.5 with a 7-iron, right? And she's going on. She's going on. She's been studying all this stuff, and nobody stopped it. Nobody corrected it, and it went out there into another land. Who knows how many millions of people? I don't remember who she was, but she was an ex LPGA player. And like I said, like as we were saying earlier, so you have the guys that have been in the trenches, that are tattered, torn, scraped, knuckle busted, whatever, right? And then you have the saddle shoe, navy blazer, oak pro shop guy, right?
Yeah.
Who probably, is good with the members and all that. That's the guy that'll get the mic.
I don't know about that. Not only don't they know anything about TrackMan, everything they say about the golf swing is either South Warwick or just wrong. You think you can eyeball a guy that just hit 6 consecutive straight bullets that went 320, and then from a shitty angle, he hits, it doesn't go one arm like Jake did once yesterday, but like finishes normal, like it looks kind of like his normal swing, and the ball goes 30 yards offline, and they say something like, I think his hips were a little too open right there. Get the out of here. You why that ball went 30 yards to the right. So say something that's like believable, but this stuff has been perpetuated since the era of you couldn't slow the swing down enough to look at it. I don't know, you guys have both seen this, but maybe somebody watching this hasn't, but like at a real big event, they'll have like the Matrix video where they take 3 or 4 cameras and they wheel all the way around.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you can see some stuff there. You can see, now look at this left shoulder. Let me just tell you how you ought to be saying. Here you go, Jake Knap, halfway down. Look at his left shoulder from here. Now, if you looked at it from this angle, seems like the left shoulder's going up. And a lot of people are trying to do that, and they wonder why they can't hit their driver good. But watch, spin him around this way. It's really lower than his right shoulder, ain't it? That's the kind of stuff you idiots on TV ought to be doing. Instead, they go something like, he's got massive hip turn. Look at the lag. Look at the leg. Look how he bowls his wrists on the downswing. He better bowl his wrists on the downswing. They're swinging 185 miles an hour. They got 185 mile an hour ball speed. They didn't bowl their wrists, and they cupped it like that guy that was just in here. They hit it 600 yards to the right. But they don't, nobody's challenging it. You see what I'm saying? They need to at least go, hey, they're trying, right? The creator stuff. They're having these little tournaments for these little YouTubers right there. I mean, okay, that's something. But don't you think you ought to do something like, hey, the next time that we're playing some tour event that nobody's watching anyway, throw a bunch of people on there that say they think they might be good and let them embarrass themselves. Give me a shot. Let's see if I embarrass myself. Throw me on there. I had a management company one time make a few phone calls. They couldn't get me an audition for PGA Tour Live. Let me tell you how many people are watching PGA Tour Live following the group that shot 14 under yesterday if they're on the golf course right now. Less people that are going to watch this on Instagram. That's how few people are watching those guys. If you got somebody like me that says, give me the mic and I'll show you what to actually say, you think they would give me a shot where even if I just threw up all over myself, nobody would see it anyway? Hell no. They're scared about 2 things. Upsetting their little apple cart of crap TV. It's crap. And 2, they don't want the phone calls. They don't want the detractors to go, why did you put John Ortega on there to talk about putting? I don't like John Ortega. I don't like the way he teaches putting. Why? Wouldn't we be better off with Paul Azier saying a bunch of nothing? I mean, they don't want the phone calls because none of those people really make any real money compared to the basketball analysts and the football analysts, because nobody watches golf on TV because it sucks. That's why. And they go, whoa, all these people watch Rory McIlroy. No, they're not listening. They're not tuning in to listen to the commentators. Steve Elgington is a friend of mine. You can go, anybody who watches this can go back to his Instagram, X, and look at his comments after they were giving Rory the grand slam on 13 after he laid up. And the next hole, they were saying nobody's ever made 3 doubles and won this tournament. It was the 13th hole. Why did they think it was a good idea to try to end the tournament? There's 135 things that have gone wrong in the Masters from the 13th fairway to the 18th hole. Can they just please talk about what's going on and not try to add the next layer of what's going to happen if he makes 6 bars because he's got a 3-shot lead? Just say, isn't it a little odd? This is what I would have said. So, Johnny, what do you think about a guy who's the longest straight hitter in golf? On purpose, laying up on 13. Go ahead.
I would say it's not a good idea because he's probably going to clear the creek in 2. Right?
No matter what.
No matter what.
With a 6-iron or a 5-iron.
And let's say he does hit in the creek. He's going to make probably a 6 at the worst.
Yep. Because he's hitting his second shot. Because he's hitting his second shot in the creek. So me and John on that coverage instead of Immelman and Jim Nance. And I'm not saying Jim Nance isn't an all-timer. I'm just saying it wasn't his best performance. They do this in Pelicans games in a year where we won 15 games, like nobody's watching. But they're trying to they're talking about somebody in TV told these people that you have to do more than just cover what's in front of you. But if you know what to talk about, you can just cover what's in front of you, right? Like he lays up and he hits the ball in the creek, right?
But do you think that
You're doing the coverage? Wouldn't you have said, Brian, why do you think he hit it in the creek?
Yeah.
I mean, I know John pretty well. The first thing I think John would have said is, so Brian, why'd you think he hit it in the creek, right?
Like, what did he do with his golf swing?
what
are some of the things that led?
he laid up. See, he could have gotten it. He should have just blown it over the green. However, on Monday, he was long. He chipped it on, and it rolled into the creek. I don't know if that affected his decision because obviously long is, and again, if he comes up short, now he's got an option to drop it and keeping the line of the flag and the ball, he can put himself in a position where he, chipping it up for 4, more likely to get up and down.
But Nicholas told him if you have a couple of shot lead, just play for 2 5s. That's why he did it. Okay. And I love Jack Nicklaus, everything about Jack Nicklaus. I don't like his courses that much. I work at one of them, but I like English Turn. So what I would say about that is that's not him. That's not why he got in the lead.
He's going against himself.
Character. But from a technical standpoint, he's been working on the club going straighter back and laying off more. He practices it every day. He practiced it yesterday when we were at the golf tournament on the range. If you tell the guy I just gave a lesson to who shot 82 yesterday on the City Park South course, no other change. Do the Rory takeaway and the Rory try to lay it off late. The ball goes further right because you're rotating the arms more this way. And under pressure, he shoved it a little bit because there's old closed club face action. He would shove it so he wouldn't hook it. And he shoved the face he didn't have to shove. And that's why it went in the water. That John Gruden or John Madden in a football game with a similar situation would have broke it down in 2 seconds. Those two guys just went all over themselves. And he called them out and he got it right.
There is a lack of that. So when you're watching the old NFL and Madden would break it down on screen, you draw lines and arrows. Okay, this is, and the viewer would get a much better idea of what the hell's going on and why things went the way they did. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
John Madden was a little bit better at it than Greg Olson. So look, we got about 6-7 minutes to play with. Why don't you ask us both one real tough question first?
Okay, John. So what do you right now?
Right.
Besides Jake Knapp, what do you have coming up? Are you going to stick with Jake Knapp? Now, what's the likelihood, and how does Oakmont suit his game? Church pew bunkers,
Well,
rough.
well, if he's playing the kind of golf that he has played and can play, any course he can manage. Like even on the, let's say on the Corn Ferry Tour, those courses aren't very well suited for him, but he still finds a way to make good scores. So good golfers, first off, they're going to be able to figure out a way to play the course in spite of sometimes it'll take away their superpowers, let's just say, right? Now, as far as like him sticking with me or me sticking with him or however you want to call that, we've been together for the most part since he was 8 years old, and he and I kind of have a relationship.
28-ish.
No, he's 30, going on 31.
There you go.
So he's gone to different people for some advice. Dana Dahlquist now, Brian. He went to Mark Blackburn. There's a guy named Les Johnson. When he was up at UCLA. So he dips into different ponds to kind of figure out what he wants to do. In the end, he kind of just decides what he's going to do, and he's just real intuitive. At some point, he goes, in a perfect world, I'd hold it this way and I'd do these things, but this is what I do, and this is what works for me, right? So, I've been kind of a sounding board for him recently, more in that vein as far as like my role with him, let's just say. But I didn't have any kids. My wife and I never had kids, so he and his brother Ryan are kind of like my kids, right? And in a way, sometimes that I'm like an uncle to him, right? So sometimes I'll offer some advice, and he'll kind of like slough it off, and then later he'll kind of just tell me, he goes, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm like, and it's exactly what I told him to do. And I'm like, I'm glad,
just like you would with your uncle or your dad.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I love the kid, and as long as he'll have me, I'll be there with him. So I don't know if that answers the question. You asked me about
anybody coming up?
Oh, anybody coming up? I
asked you one thing. You told me something else, but that's good.
No,
good
that's me about Jake Knapp, though. But anyhow, I have some kids that are coming to me partly because I know I was involved in Jake Knapp's journey, and these kids are like amazing. Like they're physical gifts. Like I have this one kid. I think he's 15, and he's already up to like almost 180 ball speed, and he's maybe 5'10", 125. And so this kid has a lot of upside, and when he goes out and plays, he goes, I played crap. Like, what'd you shoot? He goes 4 under. Like so these kids are, it's different.
It's a different world.
It's a different world. So I've got 2 or 3 of them, and I really enjoy coaching them. But the number of those kids that you coach on a regular basis is a pretty small number. For the most part, I get a lot of lessons like what Brian just gave this morning. Middle-aged people that don't want to slice as much, or somebody comes to me with some pretty bad putting issues, and they go, "Yeah, I've been working on my putting for the last 2 years, and I haven't been able to get anywhere." Right? So I'd say I give probably at least 50% of my lessons that I give are putting, because for whatever reason I've been pegged as like a putting guy. But I give other lessons too. And I guess like with the kids that come to me that I coach their whole game, I work on their golf swings, but mostly I teach them how to play golf. When you take them on the course, you'd be surprised some of the things that they don't think about. So I do have like 3 or 4 good kids, and I'm looking forward to see how they do in college and all the rest.
You're a good guy. I'm proud to call you my friend. So.
Oh, thank you.
Even though I break your ball.
Very best. They can say whatever they want about me, but my 8 best friends are gold. They can say whatever they want about me.
John's a good guy. John's a man. So Brian, what about yourself? Where are we heading now? Besides,
I'm doing the Burning Age Caves Valley Summit in a week. I am doing South Florida Teaching Summit in 3 weeks. And just had my talk about up and comers. I have an 18-year-old that I've been teaching since he's 7. That decided not to play U.S. college golf, partially because I think it's a terrible thing for somebody ready to go, socially ready to go, and has the game to play, even if it's smaller tours. He's on the Alps tour, but he's got 6 or 7 challenge tour starts this year from his amateur play. So I had him in for a week, and he's the great white hope right now for the Manzella crew. The big thing is that, and I'm working on a big project. I wish I could talk more about, but I can't. But the basic thing is that, I'm 63. How old are you?
65.
So, the 60s ain't what they used to be, right, Ralph? You got a little more energy than people did 40 years
Listen to
ago.
me. Alan, I just saw the chick, the lead singer from the Tom Tom Club, all right? She's 60 years old. 60 is the new 30, okay? I'll jump her pose in a second, but anyway.
So, I mean, I've enjoyed my slow, overly slow climb to the top of this business, and I'm still like, it's way up there, but I'm a lot closer than when you used to do this stuff, right? So I've been steadily climbing, and I really think that it hadn't happened yet in golf, but it's happened in other sports and stuff like that. This little media conglomerate right now is falling apart, right? The 2 magazines have been bought and sold for spare parts. And I do a lot of work for both of them. So I like those people, but the magazine business just across the board, I mean, is on the way out. You can get all your news right here. The newspaper business is dead, Deadsville. And the Golf Channel would not be on the air if Tiger Woods wouldn't have gotten to a wreck and an arrest. The PGA Tour would have their own network right now. So I'm hoping for a little bit more mediocre. What's the right word? When talent based. Like, like the thing about these shows, right, is you can do it, and I could do one, and John could do one, and some guy that thinks he knows something about golf but doesn't know anything can do one, and whoever doesn't suck probably will have the most people watching. And I want to help people. I want to help people enjoy golf, and I want to help people learn to play golf. And I've got sort of a unique situation right now with my, friendship and long-time affiliation with Michael Jacobs, and we got this software that nobody else has access to unless they come take a lesson or bring a student. And if I can't get to the rest of the way, if I can stay healthy for the next 10 or 12 years, it's because I'm an idiot.
What was the word you're looking for?
Yeah, meritocracy. Yes. In other words, just make it a little bit fairer, for the TV stuff, because everybody knows golf on TV stinks. And almost every one of my critics know more people would watch if I was on. So how I can't even get an audition is the damnedest thing that there is. But it's going to happen. And it's going to happen. And somebody's going to put a microphone in front of my face one day and say, Brian, you've had a lot of success. Let's say 3 years from now, you've had a lot of success. And now you got these great tour players that are playing good, and you're on TV, and you're doing and you're like an overnight success at 65 years old. Why is this? Why did it take so long? Because y'all are stupid. That's why. Or stupid. You think it has something to do with ratings. I heard this about Randall Chambly. They want him to be controversial because of the ratings. Would he not be in a tough spot sitting right there arguing with me about the golf swing? I'd stand up to his little scrawny ass. You think more people than him talking by himself? Everybody knows that. They're just trying to keep their job. I'll leave you with this. Michael Jacobs doesn't talk anywhere near as much as me. That's probably why we're friends, just like John doesn't talk anywhere near as much as me. So there's got to be enough airtime. But Michael says stuff every now and then that you could chisel. You don't have to write it down. You go get a chisel. And he said this, and I'll leave everybody with this. The powers that be in golf are not trying to save the game. They're trying to save their jobs this week. That's how fragile the whole golf media empire is. And it's all going to be different in 10 years, whether I'm here or not. The entirety of everything I talked about in this show, the Golf Channel, the golf magazines, all the whole golf complex of media is going to completely be different, probably in 5 years, but definitely 10. With the help of people like Ralph Perez.
Brian, you know, to give you credit, you've taken the road less traveled, right?
There's no doubt about it. Almost.
I bet you wanted to be the Rush Limbaugh of golf. Like way back when you were arguing with George and the Y, whatever swing it was, the Y swing from back at. But anyway,
Jeff,
so
a certain subset of golfing machine golfers want to do the hitting time.
It's come to fruition. So, you know, there has to be some disruption in order for things to get better. So if you keep it up, and I think if people start clamoring for that type of content, especially on national television, you know, because we want to keep it the status quo just isn't where
it ain't working. It's not working. To me, the majors will always have people watching because there's more compelling, but the Zurich, probably not. Great being on the show, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for calling, guys. And we got to get back and just well, you're not in a rush, and we can kind of iron out, make some talking points that I think need to be addressed.
Jacob, trying to get another win.
U.S. Open, baby.
Thank you.
Hey, you know what? If he be, I'll try to make Oakmont. American Express stole my ticket, but I'll get there.
Be good, buddy.
Thank you.